Okay, this is project 4.3. Now remember, underneath the start file, this is the spreadsheet that you're going to open up and edit. When you click on it, make sure you select Enable Editing. Immediately go to File, Save As, give it a location, and rename your file as project 4.3. Now going back, if you have a Windows operating system, make sure you use these set of instructions. If you have a Mac, make sure to use these. Now there's one additional new step in our project, and this is a resource file. Now we have to extract this. I recommend you follow my steps. This is the easiest way to extract this from the file, so when we need it, we'll be able to import it without any problems. So if you would, click on the All Office Versions. When you see it populate down in your left-hand window, you'll see it's a yellow folder with a zipper. Just click on it, and it will open up in your window, and it's automatically in the Downloads folder. So what we're going to do is double-click to go inside of it again, and we want this Excel file. Now we're not going to worry about this Word document because this is number 15, and when you go to self-grade, it doesn't even grade number 15. It doesn't even recognize if you did the work anyhow. So we're just going to disregard that. So if you would just click on this Excel file. Once it's highlighted, right-click, and then with your shortcut menu, you want to select Cut. And then we're going to go back over to this word Downloads right here and click on it to go back into that folder. And then go over in a white space and right-click and select Paste. And you'll see now that has been extracted and pulled out of that zipped up folder, and it's sitting there. So when we go to import it, we'll go to the Downloads folder. All right, so I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to go over here and start our project. Now if we start with number 1, if we go down here to the worksheet, paste it and project it down here at the bottom, if you right click over top of it, it wants us to copy this worksheet. So we're going to select Move or Copy. And we're going to check the box here to create a copy. We're going to create all the formatting. Select OK. And if you notice here, there's a copy that's been made it with a 2 in the parentheses. Now I'm going to use a click and drag approach and place it in between these two here because your set of instructions wants it placed before the criteria worksheet. Now I'm going to double click on it because I want to rename that worksheet. And in 3A, they want us to rename it as ADV Filter, and then you press enter when you're done typing so it'll accept that change. Next, in 3B, they want us to highlight, or 3A, I'm sorry, they want us to select this range starting from row 4 over to E and take it down to the last row of data. And when you do that and you hover over this corner, you're going to see this button. It's called a Quick Analysis button. They want us to click on this and then click on Tables and then select our first option, Tables. And you can see it just converted it into table mode. If I click inside this table, you see now we have the ribbon for the design tools. Now it wants us to position back over here on A5, and we're going to go over here to our table styles, and we're going to click on this bottom arrow, and we're going to open up this drop-down list. It wants us to go into the medium category, and this one here is number 15, and that's the one we're going to apply. That's the style. So that's all of number 4. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to this Data tab, and we're going to start now learning how to sort and filter our information. But we're going to start with this Advanced feature. Now, the Advanced feature, when we get into our Zoom session, I'll explain this a little more in detail. But we're going to set up a criteria, and the criteria will search within this database. If it meets the criteria, then we're going to extract the information. We're going to place it over here. So let's start setting that up, and I'll explain it as we set it up. So the first thing we want to do is we're always going to copy these titles. So I'm going to select Copy, click here, click on Paste. Now we have that pasted over, and with this border still moving, I'll just press the Escape key on my keyboard to stop that in motion. So now that we pasted that, it's going to ask us to go up here and, type out a title, and we're going to extract, so this extract range, and then we're going to change the font style. So let me get the top here, and then we're going to change the size. Okay. Now we have it labeled, and it's also going to ask you, if you can see the ES, we want to convert our mouse pointer in between the K and the L. We're going to open that up a little bit till we get employees all on one line. Okay, so now we're on number 6A. So now 6A, before we can extract our information based on criteria, we need to go over to this worksheet and we're going to set up our criteria. We need to tell the system. As you can see, they did some of the work already. Now this criteria range, that could have easily been on the same worksheet as this. They just happened to decide for this particular project they're going to use the criteria on a different worksheet. But you can see that the labels are exactly the same. Now the criteria is based on your set of instruction. We're telling the system any date that is greater than, so this would basically be the year 2017, because after the 31st it rolls over to January 1st, 2017. So the criteria is that it must be greater than 2016 and it must also be the image MRI. So the second criteria, this one must be 2015 or larger. So we type our 31st and then 14. And then also it must have the word CT scan attached to it. And make sure you don't have any misspellings when you're typing out this criteria. So there's our criteria. Now if you go back, it's going to scan. So you can see it's going to look based on this column and that column. And if it's anything, for one, the first criteria, if it's greater than 2016, so here's our 2017s, but it also must have the MRI name, so it would recognize that record and this record, and everything else it would skip, except for it also can be based on this criteria. And if you notice some down in 2017, it does have some CT scans, so it's going to grab that also. Alright, so let's go up here and start using this function. So now we're going up, and I'm going to flip over to my back side of my instructions, and now I'm on 6F, and it wants us to click here on this worksheet, Advanced Filter, click on this A5, and then we're going to go to the Data tab. We're going to click on the Advanced feature. Now it's going to start having us set this up. They want us to say, okay, let's copy to another location, which this will be the location. Okay, it's recognizing the data. It already has that. Now the criteria range we know is over here in this worksheet. So we're going to type out that worksheet name, which is criteria. Make sure there's no misspellings. You need an exclamation point to indicate, okay, that's my worksheet name. And then the range is A2, colon, and these are in your set of instructions, K4. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to make sure that I apply absolute cell referencing to A2. So you can use your shortcut key, which is the function F4. And then function F4, that way I apply it to the A2 and also the K4. And then when I go down to the copy to, we're just telling it, well, we want to copy it to, you can just click and drag right over this and it'll self-populate. And once you have that, you just select OK, and you can see now all that data has been returned. Now these pound signs just mean there's not enough column space. So I'm going to double click. Maybe just drag it open a little bit. I don't want that much space. So now you can see everything is visible. Alright, so that took care. Now if you have a hard time and it doesn't extract correctly, I would highlight all this, go home, and I would select clear all, and then I would go back and start again and try and see if you can get this extracted. So you can see all the data is based on how to be a CT or MRI. The MRIs had to be greater than 2016, and everything else had to be greater than the 2014. And it went and grabbed those records and returned them. So remember, a row is considered a record, so it returns the entire record. All right, so now we're going to move down to number 7. We're going to start just organizing our information. So the first one, it wants us to go over top of this H5, and we're going to go ahead and right-click that. And we're going to select that. We want to sort, and we want to sort it from A to Z. Now you can see now it's been sorted. The next thing they want us to do is go over here to G5, and we're going to right click, and we're going to select sort, and this time they want us to select oldest to newest. And now you can see now it's been organized. So that's all of number 17. I'm sorry, that's number 7, not number 17. Okay, moving on to number 8. Now we're going to apply some conditional formatting, which is on your Home tab, and here's your conditional formatting button. Now we're going to go and we're going to select this range starting from I5 on down. So we're going to go to conditional formatting. We're going to select this first option and we're going to select greater than. Now the rule is that when it's greater than 750, and you can see that's the number it came up anyhow, so you can see not that it's equal to, that it's greater than 750. And we have two numbers. Now that's not the style they want us to apply. They want you to open up this drop down list and select this green fill with the dark green text and select OK, and you can see within this range, whenever it recognizes a number higher than 750, it's going to apply that formatting style. So that's your conditional formatting. Next, they want us to go over to select G5 so we're just going to select this range right here, and then they want us to make sure to apply all borders. And that's the only thing we're going to do to this table. So again, we just sorted alphabetically, oldest to newest, applied conditional formatting, and then applied all borders. Now we're just going to go over here and click on A1, and that will complete number 8. Now for number 9, we're going to move over to the expense info tab, and this is where now we're going to be dependent upon our resource file. We're going to insert that. So make sure you're positioned here in A5. You're going to go to your data tab. Now if you don't have 2013, if you have 2016, there are two set of instructions for number 9. I'm flipping over because I have a 2013, and I'm going to go to the alternate number 9 on the second page over. I'm going to use these set of instructions. So once I'm in position here in A5, I'm going to go to my data tab, and here for my get from external data, I'm going to go from text. Now once I click on that option, I know I have to go to my download folder. Here's the file I just extracted. I'm going to select import. Now I'm going to go to next, and if you notice I don't have perfect lines, that means that this is separated by commas. I got to turn the tabs off and turn on commas. Now everything's going to plop in these columns nice and perfectly. I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click right here on my date range, and then click on the radio button for date, and then I'm going to click on finish, and in here I'm going to say yup, I want it in A5. Select OK, and there you go. That file automatically inserts. So that's all of number 9. There's two different methods depending on if you're working in 2013 or 2016. If you're working in 2016, use the first part of 9. If you're in 2013, go to the alternate 9 on the second page, and that's the way I just showed you. Alright, so now we're going to use this subtotal command. This is another way of sorting your information. And then once I'm done this one, I'm going to have to cut this video off and then finish a part 2 because I'm running out of time. Okay, so in order to use this subtotal command, we got to make sure that this column is sorted alphabetically first. So I'm just going to go ahead. You can either right click or just position there and go to the data tab and click on A to Z. And you can see now everything's running A, B, the last names, everything's consistent, the information. Okay, so now that I'm positioned here, I'll go over to the subtitle command, and I'll say, okay, and it's looking at these column titles. I'm saying, yup, by the last name, that's where I sorted it. I want to make sure that the function we're using, we're going to average the amount, and it's already checked. So we're saying that every time there's a change in this last name, we want to go over to this amount column and average them out. And if I select OK, and I'm going to make sure I auto fit these column lists. You can see that's what it did. So it's showing you for every time there's a change in the last name, it went over and averaged this column. Now I'm going to go over and highlight this information and go back to the home tab. And I know they want us to apply the currency style, and they also want to make sure that we have 0 decimal places. 1, 2. So make sure when you're doing this assignment, you use my video, but I'm going to double check. I want to make sure I don't, I might be rushing through and skipping something, and I did. So number 9, what they wanted us to do, this is one last step. I knew I skipped something. They want us to highlight from A to D, and then if you click and drag, they wanted the width at 12, 11. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can always right-click and select column width, and it just type it in right there, 12.11. That's the one step I did skip. So that adjusts your column width. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 11, and then